Morning. Good afternoon, everyone, from the sunny Florida. It's our pleasure to host Ms.Hailey Vaughn in our Frame Mobility Research Institute webinars in conjunction with the student chapter WTS here at the Florida Atlantic University. Ms.Hailey Wong earned her master's degree for urban and regional planning degree from our University, Florida University in 2021. In 2022, she joined Replica, a data platform company whose mission is to organize the world's information about the built environment and make it accessible, valuable, and actionable. Leveraging her background in planning, Hailey partners with AEC firms to identify how Replica data can be implemented into their workshops to comfort complex challenges concerning the built environment. We are really interested to hear your presentation. We're working a lot with data, and Zoitsa is going to follow up with you regarding potential questions that we have. Please type your questions on the chat, or you can ask directly after Hailey's presentation to Hailey. Zoitsa is going to moderate the session. Thank you, Hailey. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it, and I'm very excited to be here with you all today. So as Dr. Kaiser mentioned, my name is Hailey Vaughn, and I'm a community account manager here at Replica. Replica is a data platform for the built environment. And my role at Replica is to really work with architects and engineers and construction firms and identify how they can use Replica data in both their transportation and planning projects. So today's presentation, I am going to focus on how Replica can be integrated into transportation equity planning. So today's presentation will include an overview of Replica. I will tell you a little bit about how we got started, our data sources, and our methodology. And we will dive into some slides and some examples of how you can leverage Replica for transportation equity planning. After that, I would like to dive into the platform and actually show you what it looks like and do a demonstration. And then, as we've mentioned, we'll have some time at the end for Q&A. So here at Replica, our mission is to organize the world's information about the built environment and make it accessible, valuable, and actionable. So we transform vast data sets into an up-to-date picture of what's happening across mobility, land use, people, and economy. We were actually founded by a planner based in Kansas City, Missouri, which is where I am located now, and a data scientist from UC Berkeley. We started out in Sidewalk Labs, and then we spun out into our own company in August of 2019. Ever since, we've been working with the public sector and AEC firms. So here at Replica, we have a lot of people, transportation planners, engineers, etc. And we know that making decisions about the built environment involves confronting complex challenges that do not always have simple solutions. So in your work, you may be faced to make important decisions with data that's out of date or incomplete. And here at Replica, we're really looking to help fill those gaps. So there are a lot of different platforms out there and data sets for the built environment. And I always like to touch on what makes Replica different. So with Replica, you have access to billions of diverse, deep data points through a single platform. For our mobility data, we offer depth. So we provide detailed trip characteristics like trip purpose, mode split, and start time. But we also offer detailed trip taker characteristics like employment status, income, private availability, and from home status. We also offer a breadth of data. So in addition to mobility data, we provide land use, economic, spend, and demographic data. And then we also have some standalone data sets available for parking, AADTs, and turning movement counts. So now I'll dive into our two key data sets. Our two key data sets are places and trends, and both are designed to help you get a complete picture of your study area and the impact of your agency's decisions. So our first data set is places, and it's produced by an activity-based travel demand model that is validated, calibrated with data provided by agencies on the ground in the region and delivered annually. So our places model has coverage across the contiguous United States divided into mega regions, which each mega region covers a population anywhere from 10 to 50 million people. The outputs of each places model is a detailed disaggregate trip and population data table for an average weekday or an average weekend day. So you can download the trip table where each row will represent an individual trip with columns that include characteristics about the trip like mode and purpose. And then we also have the trip taker table, which you can download the characteristics like household income, race and ethnicity, etc. So places data is available in our places study interface that you can access through a web browser. So for Replica, you don't have to download any software. It's all web-based and super easy to access the data and download it for your use. So our customers right now use places to improve planning and monitoring of transportation and land use systems and to make decisions related to the ways that people interact with their built environment. Our second data set is trends. So because our places data pipeline is so computationally intensive, we run a modified version to deliver our trends data set. Trends is a nationwide activity-based model updated each week with near real-time data on mobility, consumer spend, and land use. This data is really good for understanding how much variability is typical during a season, and it also gives you insights into impacts of specific events or policy development interventions in your area. So now that I have shared a little bit about our two primary data sets, I want to dive into our data sources and a high-level methodology. So we leverage a composite set of data to create our models. The first is location, and this is including LBS data, cellular network, vehicle and dash, and point of interest data. The second bucket of data we have is residential data. So we do create a synthetic population for the entire United States, and we primarily use census ACS data to inform the synthetic population. The third group is built environment data. This includes OpenStreetMap, which is our base road network, a national GTFS layer for transit feeds, census LEHD data, as well as a number of proprietary sources for land use, parcel data, etc. Our fourth bucket of data is economic activity. So we ingest merchant acquiring data as well as payment networks data. Lastly, we have the ground truth data. So we obtain traffic counts, transit counts, bike and ped counts, etc., that we use for both the calibration and validation in our places and trends products. In terms of our methodology, this is a very high level of how we take these data sets and create an up-to-date picture that includes granular data outputs, but doesn't surface the actual movements or compromise the privacy of any one individual. To do this, we first start out with creating a synthetic population that matches the characteristics of a given region. We then train a number of behavioral models specific to that region, and we apply 3 models. We have the activity sequence model, which determines the activities of a simulated person's day, including both recurring activities like going to work or school, or one-time activities such as going to a friend's house. We also have the location choice. This determines the specific location of each discretionary activity, such as where the grocery shopping gets done, and then we assign a location at the point of interest level. We also have the mode choice model, which determines how the trip will be made based on the state of the transportation network, and we account for available transit options and multiple driving. Next, we run simulations of those models applied to the synthetic population to create a replica of transportation and economic patterns. It's important to note that movement is simulated with an agent-based approach, so we account for congestion and other interactions between individual travel itineraries. Last step is that we calibrate outputs of our model against observed ground truth data to improve quality. So at a very high level, that's the methodology. I have covered a lot of information in a short period of time. So before I dive into the platform and how you can leverage Replica for equity planning, I want to just take a moment to pause to see if there are any questions in the chat or any questions I can answer right now.
Thank you, Ms.Hailey. We have a question from Dr. Marlin. If my community held a special event which attracted a lot of traffic, would that be visible in trends data?
That's a great question. So for trends data, we have several preloaded events for specific geographies. One that comes to mind is for each geography, we have when the stay-at-home order was issued, and we also preload major events. So if there was like a hurricane or a major weather event. So we do preload those, and then as a Replica user, you have the ability to add your own event to the trends data. So if you had a specific conference or event like you're referencing, you can add that as an event in your trends dashboard, and that will be noted alongside the trends data. So it's a helpful way to contextualize the mobility and the spend data depending on the event. All right. Well, we can go ahead and jump into transportation equity planning and the platform itself. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the Just to 40 initiative, and transportation professionals now need to demonstrate that the benefits of their investments will flow through to disadvantaged and vulnerable communities, which is a great thing. So in the past, the data available to planners couldn't always support these types of analyses, but now there have been many advancements in activity-based travel models, such as replicas, and transportation professionals can now explore new questions about who benefits from new and existing infrastructure, how people in different geographic, socioeconomic, and demographic communities are able to access the amenities and opportunities in their cities. So here on the screen is just a quick snapshot of different filters that you can apply in Replica. So you can see there are trip filters and people filters, and depending on how you filter down the data, you can inform transportation equity initiatives of all kinds. So now I'm going to go ahead and dive into a few sample questions related to transportation equity that can easily be explored in Replica's interface. I understand that as I go through these questions, it may be a little bit difficult to see what filters we've applied, but we will hop into the platform after. So if there is a certain filter that you would like to see or a certain type of analysis that sparks your interest, please keep it in mind. And then when I dive into the platform, we can always revisit your questions and interest. Okay. So as you approach a transportation planning project, you may ask yourself the question, how do disconnected communities reach the city? So this is a map that you would see in Replica's interface, and it's of Denver's Globeville neighborhood. This is a majority non-white area that's just northeast of the intersection of I-70 and I-25. This community, as many other communities, have been recognized as a community cut off by both interstate and rail construction. So in Replica, we have selected Globeville as our study area, and we have selected this our trip origin. And then we have filtered down to trips that are under 4 miles. On the right, you can see we have a distribution of household incomes of trip takers who are making those trips that are less than 4 miles. And then we have a breakdown of mode as well. So even though Globeville is near multiple bus and rail lines, there are actually few stops and trips that are under 4 miles. Less than 1% is transit, and private auto trips are exceeding 45%. The next question I've posed is, what infrastructure do disadvantaged communities rely on most? And in you can quickly understand how people in disadvantaged communities engage with transportation systems in the area for different purposes. So in this example, we look at road network volumes for residents of disadvantaged communities in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We have the home location filter applied, as well as a household income filter. And that network link volume layer is on, which you can see on the map. So here we can quickly identify differences in activity based on trip purpose. So we can see that Route 11 shows high volumes for work trips. However, if we filter down to errands trips, we can show greater activity along Kalamazoo Road. So corridor and origin destination analyses like these can support project prioritization and enable new understandings of how vulnerable residents will be impacted during construction and benefit from improvements in the future. The third question here is, where do low-income commuters rely on transit? So I'm sure this has come up a lot, but as a new normal takes shape amid the COVID-19 pandemic, public agencies really need to understand who's most reliant on public transit service and how they are being served. So in this map, we have the census tracts of Seattle residents who have household incomes under $50,000. And then we are looking at commuting in evening, late night, and early morning hours. So between 7 p.m. and 7 a.m. Here you can see we have the trip duration as well as trip distances. And then with returning to the office and its effect on public transit services, analyses like these are important because there's definitely shifting transit routes and schedules. So this is a quick, easy way to identify for those 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. hours who is utilizing transit. The next question here is, what can I learn about inequities in white versus non-white transit riders? So when evaluating inequities in transit systems, it helps to get a full view of the differences in the way cohorts of populations rely on transit. So in this example, we looked at transit ridership in Nashville to understand the way white riders, who are responsible for 64% of all transit trips, differ from non-white riders. So more than 2/3 of white riders have household incomes above $75,000, while 61% of non-white riders have household incomes below $50,000. In Replica, we also have private auto availability, and private vehicle access reveals another important dynamic. So more than half of non-white riders come from zero-car households compared to just 10% of white riders. So further insights from Replica about trip purpose, duration, and origin destination locations can be used to guide studies and decision-making about routing, scheduling, and supporting infrastructure based on any number of goals at the local level. The last question I have posed here is, how should I target community outreach to capture feedback from those most impacted by a policy intervention? So when conducting community outreach, it's important that you have the information you need to start the conversation and to target outreach to the people who are going to be most affected by the changes that will be made. So in the map above, we show the home locations by block group for all people who traveled on a segment of Richmond, Virginia's Warwick Road. So Warwick Road is slated to receive a bike lane, and Replica's web interface shows breakdowns of incomes and age of those travelers who are actually using this road segment. So this can be helpful in identifying who might be affected by a project and how to target marketing toward them for a community engagement purpose. Additionally, We have a variety of related maps, charts, and figures in the platform that can quickly be pulled for use in conversations with the public. So without diving into the platform, those questions and the filters that we've applied may be a little bit hard to follow, but I'd now like to dive into the platform. I'm just going to check the chat and see if anyone has any questions before we transition to the platform.
If you have any question, you can ask in the chat box.
Okay, perfect. So now I need to get to the Replica platform. And are you able to see the Replica landing page on your side now?
Yes, you can see.
Okay, perfect. So I just logged into Replica. I'm on our homepage right now when you log in. So you will see that we have Replica Places Studies, as well as Replica Trends Dashboards. Today, I want to dive into a Replica Places study. That way I can show you just how quick and easy it is to navigate the platform and to download trip data as well as the trip taker data. So for Places Studies, I would like to go ahead and create a new study. For the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to look at trips that originate in Palm Beach County and end in Broward County, Florida. So I'm going to just call this OD Study South Florida. You're then prompted to select your mega region, which I will be in the South Atlantic, as it includes the states of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina. So for each mega region, we have 3 seasons of data available. That's going to be fall 2019, spring 2021, and fall of 2021. I have the most recent season, fall 2021, selected. And then you also have the ability to look at trips that are typical weekday trips, which we represent as a Thursday, or typical weekend trips, which we represent as a Saturday. I'll go ahead and select Thursday as I'm interested in looking at weekday trips. Then I can create my new study. So as this loads, I'll orient you to the platform. Along the top, we have the filter toolbar. So anytime I apply filters to my trips, they will appear here. And I can also remove and edit filters from the filter toolbar along the top. You'll see we have 2 tabs, the map and dataset tab. We're currently on the map tab, where you can interact with the different map layers. And then when you're ready to download or preview your data, you can flip to this dataset tab, which I'll visit here shortly. If you come to the right, you'll see we have a summary of trips. So right now we are modeling 156 million trips made by 33.1 million trip takers. And this is for the entire South Atlantic mega region, so the state of Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina, on a typical weekday in the spring, or excuse me, in the fall of 2021. As you filter trips, this continues to update. And then we also have a certainty indicator, which is how confident we are in the data. And you can also visit the info icon to view our ground truth data sources for this region as well. So as I mentioned, I'm interested in looking at trips that start in Palm Beach County and end in Broward County. So I'm going to change my geo breakdown level to counties. In Replica Places, you have data outputs down to block group level, so you can get pretty granular here. My next step is to select Palm Beach County as my origin. And there's a couple ways to do this, but I'll just select it directly from the map. And I'll apply the trip origin filter. And you can now see it in my filter toolbar. So next, I'm going to select my destination. So I'm just going to flip the layer data to trips by destination. It's going to default back to the tract levels. So I'll go ahead and change it back to counties. And then I will select Broward County as my destination. So you can see now that I have my trip origin as Palm Beach County and my trip destination as Broward County. And this will take just a minute to load, but we will soon have our summary here that will represent the number of trips that start in Palm Beach County and end in Broward County. So that's going to be 318,000 trips made by 254,000 trip takers. So at this point in time, you can really start to dive into these trips and learn about the trip characteristics as well as the trip taker characteristics. You can do so by expanding the Show Summaries panel on the right-hand side. Here we'll have several modules that will load up, and I'll go through those. That way we can learn more about the trips starting in Palm Beach County and ending in Broward County. So first you'll see that we have origin destination pairs. Although I have selected it at the county level, I do have the ability to change it here if I want to look at the origin destinations at a more granular level. So say if I'm interested in looking at the origin by tract, I can select that as well as the destination by tract. I'll revisit this when it loads. Here we go. And now you can see we have origins and destinations both at the tract level. There's a download option here where you can download all the origin destination pairs as a CSV. And when you view origin destination details, you'll see that your download's also going to include demographic information as well as mode and trip purpose information. So this is at the county level again, but you can adjust it to your preference. Beyond the origin destination pairs, we also have several modules such as starting hour. So if you want to look at trips that just start in the AM hour, say perhaps between 6 and 9, you can select the bars directly from the histogram and hit filter to selected. So if I do this, it will then filter the trips down just to trips that are between 6 and 9. So I wanted to show you how you can easily filter trips from those summary panels. For the sake of this demo, I'm going to just go ahead and remove that filter. And then we'll keep exploring. So as a reminder, this is for trips that start in Palm Beach County and end in Broward County on a typical weekday in the fall of 2021. You can see that nearly 70% of these trips were private auto. If you're wanting to filter down to commercial trips, you could do so here. Same for transit, taxi, TNC, etc. We also have a breakdown of trip purpose. And then we can also look at trips and trip origins and trip destinations, both by building use and land use. Here's a breakdown of trip distance. So you can see that around 30% of these trips are between 16 and 32 miles, which makes sense because we're looking at trips at the county level. We have trip duration, and then we also have transit routes as well. So in the application, we do have a transit light. If you expand this and turn it on, the map will update and we will display those transit routes and stops. And you can look at the breakdown of both alighting and boardings. So those are the trip characteristic filters. Then I'll dive into the trip taker characteristics. So the first one to load here is household income. So you can get a quick distribution of household incomes for those trip takers. And then if you're wanting to look at a specific cohort, you can filter down. Say if you wanted to just look at household incomes 50,000 or less, you could do so here. So with these trip taker characteristics, that's when you can really start to get into equity planning to see where either low income or minority households are making trips, what types of modes they're utilizing, as well as what their trip purposes are. So we have a breakdown of race and ethnicity, home location, residential VMT, and then you can also look at work and school location, age, employment status, private auto availability, and work from home. Work from home is one of our newer features that a lot of our clients have been very interested in as people are returning to the office or keeping with hybrid schedules or even keeping with work from home permanently. This data is very valuable to them as they begin to make transportation decisions. So those are the summaries. As I mentioned, you can download each one as a CSV or as a PNG if you'd like to insert the module into a report. But we do also have the data available as a complete trip table as well as a complete trip taker table, which you can download from this dataset tab. So here's the trip table. You can manage attributes. So here you can turn on and off certain attributes that you would like to be captured in your download. So if you are not interested in mode for some reason, you could toggle that off, for example. But most of the time, we just leave the attributes as they are. But it's important to note that the data you download will retain the filters you applied. So if I download this trip table right now, it's just going to be for trips that start in Palm Beach County, end in Broward County, and fall of 20 on a typical weekday. For the trip taker table, there is a unique person ID. You can join the people table to the trip table, and you can do out-of-app analyses. So this is disaggregate data. There's a lot that you can do here in different ways to filter down the data for your equity approach. So this is a quick overview of Replica places. I want to make sure I save time to cover Replica trends. I saw a question come through the chat, so I'm just going to pause a moment to look at that.
We have a question from Andrew. Does Replica have waybill data and in situ commodity flow data? And can the user import this data into the model if not?
I am not familiar with what waybill data is. So if you would like to elaborate, I would appreciate it. And if it's an answer that I do not have, I can certainly circle back to you. And then to your second question, we do partner with our customers and the different data that they have available, we can incorporate it into the model.
Hi, Haley. This is Andrew Androsco. I work for the Minnesota Department of Transportation. And one of the interests that we have is about waybill data, which is essentially a bill of lading of what is actually in a truck at any one point in time. And so for us folks in the freight world, we're very interested in modeling freight flows and where things are going and how that may impact communities. Particularly as you think about equity, that's going to be a much bigger issue in the future. And so we're very interested in hearing about your model and Replica as a software, because we think that this might potentially be a system that could apply for a future solicitation that we have, focusing on freight location and siting. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's a fantastic question. And thanks for providing me that insight. So we do model commercial trips. We do not have the waybill data, but that's certainly feedback that I can pass along to our data team. Of course, I'd always be happy to get you in touch with someone on our team as well, who this is more so their area of expertise with the commercial freight, and get some more input there. So thanks for your question. Okay, perfect. So really quickly, we will visit Replica trends. So as I mentioned earlier, Places is delivered seasonally, whereas Trends data is updated on a weekly basis. So we can create Trends dashboards for specific geographies all the way down to the tract level. You can also upload a custom geography for both Places and Trends. So if you have a specific area that's not very well captured by traditional boundaries, all you have to do is upload a shapefile or a GeoJSON file to our platform, and we can get that custom geography created for you. So right now, I'll go ahead and just visit a trend dashboard that I already have created for Miami-Dade County, Florida. So when this loads at the top, you'll have a snapshot of the geography selected and some summary statistics. I like to call out that we are showing the most recent data from the week of October 10th, 2022. How the Trends dashboard is set up is you have separate tabs for mobility data, spend data, and land use data. So right now I am on the mobility tab. You can look at either a specific date range or you can look at year-over-year metrics. I'll go ahead and flip to year-over-year. Hopefully it toggles over. Unfortunately, when I share my screen, the platform tends to be a little bit slow, but I can assure you when you're in here, it goes pretty quickly. It's just when I screen share and have my camera going and all of these different variables, it tends to slow down. So as this loads, you'll see we have modules for total trips. Right now, we are showing 2019 to 2022. It hasn't fully loaded yet. This right here is an event indicator that I referenced earlier. This is indicating when the stay-at-home order was issued. So you can see in 2020 how the total number of trips declined and contextualize that around when the stay-at-home order was issued. Just like in Places, you do have the ability to download either the module as an image or a CSV for the data behind that specific module. We also have a breakdown of trip purpose as well as mode split in the Trends dashboard. So you can change the data with the drop menu. Now I'm looking at trips with the purpose of home, and then for mode split, the private auto trips. I could switch to transit, for example. And the event is still marked on these modules of when that stay-at-home order was issued. But you'll see for transit trips, the sharp decline with the onset of COVID. Then we also have a working from home status in Trends. And then we do have some map visualizations as well. So this is for the change in total trips by origin from the week of April 4th, 2022 to October 10th, 2022. So these maps will not be year over year. It'll be for a specific date range. And then here's trip volumes for the week of October 10th, 2022. So you can download these maps as well from the Trends dashboard. For the sake of time, I'm just going to hop through the remainder of Trends very quickly. So we do have spend data available in Trends. You can look at spend either as a specific date range or as year over year. And you can look at spend by home location or by merchant location. So right now I have spend option selected to spend by home location. meaning that I am only looking at the spend or the purchases from residents in Miami-Dade County. We break out spend in several categories, and restaurants and bars, grocery stores, and retail all have in-person spend as well as online spend data available. So this takes just a second to load, but you can quickly see year over year how in-person spend changed for residents of Miami-Dade County for restaurants and bars, for example. And then we have some maps as well. Lastly, we do have land use data. So land use data is not updated weekly like our spend and mobility data. It is updated twice a year. So here you can get a breakdown of land area and building area, and then just a quick overview of the land area by category as well as dwelling units. We do have a distribution of land area. This is at the tract level. So if you hover over a tract, you'll see it's colored yellow because this tract is primarily single family residential. But then we also provide the other categories as well if you hover over it. Just like places, you can also download data from Trends with this download data button. There's different metrics. And I would say our most common download in Trends is that you can go in on a weekly basis and download origin destination pairs to the tract level. I have a lot of customers who hop in there and get weekly OD pairs as well as weekly spend data. But that is Trends at a very high level. I flew through it, but it's really nice to have the Places seasonal model, which gives you a smooth look at trips and patterns for a typical season, whereas the Trends data is weekly and can give you a better insight into variation. So I know that we only have about 15 minutes left. So I'd like to stop here just to take time for questions. I'm also happy to show any other things in the platform or anything you'd like me to revisit.
Thank you, Ms.Hailey, for your nice presentation. If anyone have any question, you can ask Ms.Hailey.
Hi, Hailey. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you?
I just wanted to clarify my question. I think you answered it already, but I just wanted to clarify. So my question is, suppose my city had a special event where there are a lot more people making trips there. Would Trends pick up on it? It sounds like it would. That would weekly data would be captured, and you would see an uptick of however many trips to that census trend.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. So you'll pick that up in the mobility metrics. Another metric of interest is the work from home. So for instance, we saw work from home increase in the South Florida area with the recent hurricane. I had a couple of my customers reach out and they wanted to confirm that the spike in work from home was a real spike. And I checked with our data team and it certainly was. So it's really neat that we can capture those differences and trends.
I guess I wanted to make one, this is not really a question as much as a comment. Having this level of detailed data is really something we've never had in transportation planning. And so I think it's going to take a while before people figure out how to use it. I was wondering actually if Replica is planning a conference for Replica conference.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll first start out with, we do host several webinars on different topics where we invite our current customers to join us and they share how they've leveraged Replica. So this ranges from, state DOTs to private AEC firms that are partnering with public sector clients. And then we are looking into hosting an event of our own in the year 2023, where we can have our current users as well as potential users join for a Replica deep dive. So we promote our webinars that are open to the public on our website, which is just replicahq.com. My contact information is also in the slide deck. And if you do have interest in Replica or you'd like to attend a webinar where you can learn more about how to actually use the data and what customers are using the data for, be happy to extend an invite to those webinars.
Any other question? Very interesting presentation, very interesting, Hailey, very interesting presentation. And definitely we will follow up with you, okay? And I wish to have a couple people that are working on this area in your seminar, but your webinar, but they have a class right now.
Well, I do believe you recorded the session, so feel free to share the session with anyone who is interested and post it where you
Yes,
would like.
we will.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Zoitza, do we have any other question?
I cannot see any other question in the chat box.
Okay. Could you please inform us when is the next webinar or any FMRI activity?
Yes, we have a couple of upcoming events. One is on 9th of November, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m., which will be hosted by ITFA student chapter. They will be hosting co-consulting to present their current project on the Glades Road diverging interchange at I-95. And we have another webinar on November 16th, Wednesday, 12 p.m., which FMRI and IT will be hosting. And the topic is WEJO, improving safety, mobility, and transportation through connected vehicle data, and it will be presented by Ms.Hailey. You can get all those information from our FMRI website.
Excellent, excellent. We would like to thank everyone for this event, and I would like to thank Hailey for this great presentation.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
You too, you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining. Have a good day.
Have a great day.